Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. Bill, nice to have you. Well, hello, Kathy. Nice to see you. And Mark, always a pleasure. Jeff, thanks for coming. High five back at you. I like to remind everyone that this is a Q&A session, and you'll have the opportunity to share your questions on an open mic. Now, if you're joining us on Zoom, please submit those questions, thoughts, and ideas using the Q&A button on the control panel. We certainly welcome you all, and good afternoon to the Leadership in the Age of Personalization live session. We are just about ready to get started. So thanks for joining us, Henry, Howard, Jay, Sayuri. Welcome. If you haven't gotten your nice cup of coffee or your favorite tea, perhaps you can grab one real quick because we're just about ready to get started. Well, welcome and good afternoon to the Leadership in the Age of Personalization live session. Now, joining us from Zoom or YouTube, I'm Glenn Yopes. And on behalf of GLLG, thank you so much for taking the time to join us live to learn from Sharna Lubin about the art of reinvention. Now, I'd like to remind you all to just take a moment to click the like button, as well as to subscribe to our YouTube channel and social media so that you could stay in touch with our most recent content about leadership in the age of personalization. Now, again, I'd like to remind you, if you just joined us, that this is a Q&A session. So everyone will have an opportunity to share their questions on an open mic. Now, if you're joining us from Zoom, please submit your questions and ideas on the Q&A panel. If you're watching us from YouTube, submit your comments via chat. GLLG staff is on standby to ensure that we organize the flow of questions to ensure that you can submit your thoughts and we can have an enriching conversation. I'd like to start our session by asking you all a question, because this is a question that I've been grappling with for years. How do you find your distinction before society defines it for you? How do you find your distinction before society defines it for you? You know, this is one of the many issues that we've identified with this tension that exists today, whether it's in our society or in the places that we work at, this tension between standardization and personalization, or in other words, when the institution or society defines us versus when we as individuals try to define society and the institution. And what we've learned is that these two forces need to find a way to coexist. But why is it these forces made it so difficult to coexist in search of our distinction? Well, I've come up with one conclusion, and I'm sure there are many. Number one is we forget the gifts that we have. We forget the gifts that we have, but we also forget about the gifts that we've been given. For example, my father, when I was born, he was 50 years old. He was a victim of Castro's revolution. Boy, he'd be proud of how people are standing up to communism these days, as we've all seen in the news. But back then, he was just happy to be alive and happy to have the gift of children. But the gift that he gave me is one of wisdom and authenticity and love. In fact, I'm certain that my father taught me how to love people and how to teach them to maximize their full capacity through their own authenticity. And number two is the responsibility that we have to help create future legacies. Now, perhaps the following will explain. You see, at our Leadership in the Age of Personalization Summit in 2019, it was a room full of senior executives. And we were all given a gift at this time by an 8th grader whose name is Sharna Lubin. Let's roll it, Paulo, and let's get people in touch with the gift that she gave us.
I want to talk about a person you may have seen in this conference a little bit earlier today. You may have seen some girl in a black dress annoyingly banging away on that piano in the far corner over there. I'll introduce you to her. Her name is Sharna Lubin. It says on her card her occupation is being an 8th grader at Harvard Westlake. Pretty cool, pretty pretentious, but there's more to that. She is born from a Jewish American father and a Japanese mother from Tokyo. She takes a lot of pride in her culture and her diversity herself. She is very proud of her Japanese culture. She's proud of her Jewish American culture. Now, there's another person here who's standing on stage right now and talking. Her name is also Sharna Lubin. She is leading the Gender and Sexuality Awareness Club at school and the Asian American Cultural Club. And these two groups are so important because we don't really think about those people so much, I think. People will come to the Gender Sexuality Awareness Club, GSA. We've talked about for so many weeks, what's going on in Brunei? People are, getting executed and so many horrible things for their sexuality. And we try to solve those problems. But how do we solve those problems when people feel like they haven't contributed? It's kind of funny why we're gathered here. We're talking about how we want to switch from standardization to personalization. And we all say we wish we weren't so standard before, more individual. I think that's a really big issue. It takes a lot. It takes courage. And courage is the will to do something. That can be the will to live. And it takes so much more courage to try to solve these problems, surprisingly. As a part of the youth community, we're kind of always told, you have no idea what you're talking about. Why would you say that? That's so ridiculous. That's frivolous. Don't even think about doing that. You're too young. I may not be the CEO of a company like everyone else here. I'm just some 14-year-old kid ranting about problems that I find in a bunch of other kids. But you know what? When we start when we're younger, when we're told when we're younger, hey, you can be yourself. You can express your opinion. I can talk to you. There are places where people can talk to you and help you. I find that the most important thing, because we cannot start when we're young to think that we should assimilate if we want to not assimilate when we're older. And that's the most important thing. And we need to acknowledge that, because identity crisis comes the most and occurs the most when we don't recognize that difference, when we think we need to blend with other colors. Because quite frankly, everyone is a different shade of a color in the entire color spectrum. when you blend all the colors of the rainbow, like Roy G. Biv, you get brown. Usually, when they try to do something, they try to paint something, they don't just blend every single color of the rainbow together. They use all the colors individually. Use them as a different shade on a different part of the paper. And that's what we are. We are all that different shade of a color on that paper. That's what we need to look at. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure that you were as moved as I was when I heard that live. In fact, it shocked a lot of people because it brought to light just how powerful standardization can be in our quest to find our identity, only to find that society has defined it for us before we've discovered our own distinction. See, this is the gift that we're all about to experience right now. See, Brielle knew her gifts when she said those powerful words, and they came from someone. Well, I can tell you that they came and were at least partially influenced by her grandmother. Sharna Lubin is going to share her story today about the art of reinvention. You know, you can help someone create their legacy, but you don't have to wait a lifetime to create your own. And how are you giving gifts to those that perhaps need it the most, when perhaps you think that you have nothing to give? And then when you have something to give, how much are you giving it? Especially at a time today when everyone is in search of not just their distinction, but feeling that they can have psychological safety at a time where everybody feels that once they say something, one can be criticized and judged very quickly. So Sharna Lubin, thanks for being here today to share your story. But before you join us, Follow, please, let's get this started with an intro video about Sharna.
When I paint, I really just disappear. I just float into the work. I started painting when I was a young girl. A friend of mine suggested I take an art class. And the moment I walked into that room, it was like my life changed. My work, for the most part, is very bright, very colorful. Sometimes it's very pop art, funk art, even graffiti art. And I paint every day, every morning. I love painting the music. Music really fills my soul. And depending on the tempo of the music, that's where how the brush moves on the paper and through the paint. I think the act of doing the art is really what I get out of it. I don't think I ever really knew who I was until I started to paint. I'm going to start to cry. Painting is an emotional experience for me. It really is. I hope it'll live on, but it's the act of the creation that is important to me. It isn't really what happens to the art. If people want it, then I'm very happy, but it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I am Sharna, and I love to create.
Sharna,
Hi,
it It is so nice to see you, my dear. Thank you
It's so
so
nice
much.
to see you too. And thank you for this. This is really delightful. We talked about crying. Just seeing that video of Brielle just absolutely breaks me up. I think I've learned from her.
So Sharna, let's take us back to the 40s and 50s. I mean, Sharna was not a common name. Isn't this really the story of your life?
It really is. When I was a young girl, and I go into my first day of elementary school, and of course you had to say your name so the teacher would know who you are. And I'd raise my hand, I say, I'm Sharna Gershman, and they'd say, you mean Sharon? I'd say, and then my face would turn scarlet red, and I would say, no, it's Sharna. And it was like, it just would set the tone. And that was like, oh, the embarrassment just never seemed to stop. So I would wish to have had a name like Patty or Jill or some other name that was so recognizable that the teacher could just call them out and they'd feel comfortable. But it did start me to thinking that maybe I really am a little different. My mother must have named me Sharna for a reason. And so here I am. And I am a little different.
And you know what, Sharna, this is an example. Your mother gave you the right gift, right?
Yes, she
and
really
you didn't
did.
even know it at the time because you just wanted to fit in.
Exactly.
And I think that this is the art of reinvention is even recognizing that we feel the pressures of societal norms when maybe the things that make us different are the greatest gifts that we find ignoring.
Right.
What can you tell us about getting the most out of life, Sharna? I mean, clearly it's as if you're just getting started. I mean, look how cool that background is. I think everybody that's watching right now or listening must be asking themselves, why can't I be this cool? And you're teaching us this at a time of your life when one would think that you're at the end, but you're really at the beginning.
Well, I don't know if this is the beginning, but I think I have always been open to change. I have always been open to change. And as a mother, I went through that process. I wasn't sure it was the best process for me or the best job for me, but I did it and we survived. And I have 3 wonderful, wonderful sons that have just made us so proud. And I have wonderful grandchildren. And it's just, life was wonderful. But then I knew that the boys, it was time for them to leave the nest, and I had to reinvent who I was again. And I didn't really realize that art was going to be that reinvention until this neighbor asked me to help her paint some needlepoint kits. And when I kept going out of the lines because I liked it better, and she said to me, you know, I love what you're doing, but it doesn't quite fit the mold. Well, I'm not one to really fit into a mold. And so she said to me, you know what? I think you need to be doing something on your own. This is not for you, and it definitely isn't for me. And so I said, okay, the boys were going to school, and I thought, you know, maybe it's time for me to go back to school. And I thought, I haven't taken an art class. I never took an art class. And I walked into the first prerequisite for art in Pierce College. And I opened my eyes, a light bulb went on, and I was reborn. I mean, literally reborn. And it was like, that was it. It was like the first time I felt really alive. And here I am. And this is what you see. This is the next version of my reinvention.
Well, look, Sharna, I think just with these words alone, you've probably made a lot of people ask themselves, have I found the light? Have I found what excites me, and have I taken action? And so I'd like to invite our attendees to please ask Sharna some questions, perhaps some questions that you've been thinking about. Maybe it's not just for yourself, maybe a parent, maybe a loved one, maybe a friend. I mean, look, I'll start it off if I may, Sharna.
Sure.
You know, Sharna, I discovered 2 weeks ago that I was a workaholic. And we haven't talked about this, so I'm going to share some raw truth here, and I'll make it quick. I realized that I needed help. I realized that through this journey that the reason that I loved work so much is because I saw how much it helped other people. But in the process, I recognized that I never was helping myself. And so I share this with you because I think we all know that society has a way of putting us on the treadmill, giving us all the predetermined metrics for what happiness and success looks like. And maybe on the outside, I look like I'm a super successful guy and I'm very proud of my work. But, I've come to learn that it's not about success more than it is about significance. What can you speak to about the importance of feeling a sense of significance, Sharna? Why do you care so much?
Well, I think I've always been a loving person. Like you say, you received the love from your father and he taught you to do the things that you now find so important. And I think basically that's where it came from in my life. My father was one, he was a very artistic man. He had many ideas that he wanted to explore, but I think having to make a living, he wasn't able to really get into anything really artsy or scientific. He had a brilliant mind. And he introduced me to many, many things when I was a young girl. And I think those things really stayed inside of me. And I think it has given me a sense of who I am. And because I feel as though I do love myself, that it is easy for me to love others. Loving others is very easy for me. And I try to find the best in people. It seems to just come naturally to me. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm definitely not perfect, but I do find loving to be easy.
I think we have, if it's okay, we have someone just put something on the chat. Mark, I know you put it through chat, but do you mind maybe asking the question to Sharna on the open mic?
Hi there.
Mark?
Hi, Mark.
Thanks, Sharna. I'm enjoying hearing your story, and I actually know Lee through Glenn. So I've known him for some time now, and congratulations on being an awesome mom and I shouldn't say great grandmother, but a wonderful grandmother. My question was really about, like probably others that are listening or watching, getting closer to that stage of their lives where they're pondering that next step and are ready to leave. You left motherhood and maybe other things and stepped into your artistic pursuits, but thinking more intentionally about that next chapter for those that are at that age group, like what would you advise? How would you go about that? And maybe what did you kind of experience from, say, the practical side of that decision? What was that like for you?
Well, it was funny because I did get into this needlepoint thing, and she kind of gave me the hint. I wouldn't have really thought to do this, but she gave me the hint and she said, "You seem to love to paint. Why don't you take a class at the university and see what you learn?" And I had always been into these sort of things as a girl in elementary school, but I never pursued them later on in middle school and high school, and even in my earlier years in college, which I didn't go through because I just found that it wasn't for me. But when I walked in the door, and because my children were in the college, I said, you know what, it's time for me. I'm not doing that much. I don't have to go to work, thank goodness. My husband was wonderful and supported my whims. I decided this was the time I was going to do it. And it just clicked. And I guess whatever my background was, it was just there waiting to happen. And it was just the most exciting moment in my life. And I would say to you that if there were things that maybe you did when you were younger, you loved to play music, or maybe art was your thing, or maybe you loved drama, or maybe whatever, maybe it was tennis, whatever, to think more about that now and maybe take it up again. And I think if there's something you love, generally it'll be there. It's just waiting to open the door. And when you get through that door, you'll know it. And if it happens to you, your life will be renewed again, and you'll have just that much more life to look forward to. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it. That's what happened to me. And if a person can find that, it's such a joy. I can't even explain it to you. It's such a joy.
Well, first of all, thank you again for the question, Mark. And again, we encourage others to jump in, and that doesn't mean you can't jump back in, Mark. Every question's a good one. And Sharna, I think this comes to the question of, making yourself available in life to find your purpose. How do you make yourself available in life? And I just want to go back to my recent journey. You said something that you cannot love others to the fullest unless you can learn to love yourself.
Yes.
When did you start making yourself available to life? And the reason I'm asking is that I realize this might be a shock to some that know me, haven't heard this about me, but I almost feel like I have after 30 years of societal norms, that I myself have finally made myself available to life. How did you do that?
Well, I think when you don't worry about what people think about you so much. I mean, I think I've always been a little different anyway. I don't really know what people think about me. But it somehow or other, it doesn't really matter to me. There's something about what I do. I get so much out of life and loving what I do that when I paint a picture, and it could be the worst picture that someone else would say, and I look at it and I say, I think this is beautiful. I love this. And so I think you know what? I love everything I do. I have to say that. Even when I make dinners for the family, I want to keep the family together. It's hard work. And at my age, it's really hard work. But you know what? I love doing it. And I love when they're here. And if they appreciate what we have, I don't worry about whether they love it or not. I know they'll love it because if I do it, I know I love it. So they probably will love it. And it just makes me happy. It just makes me happy.
You know what I just learned? And maybe here's one for you. You ready? I think everything in your life has been a piece of art.
You're right. It has. You're right.
In fact, on that note, because I'm sure people are just as curious about this as I am, how many pieces of art have you created, you think, Sharna? How many do you think?
Well, I would say there's probably 1,000 and maybe there's more. If I would show you in my back room where I have all my artwork piled up, you would believe me. This business with the jackets that you see behind me are just something new. My niece Lori gave me the idea to get into something like this because I thought eventually my work would probably go in the garbage, because what is anybody going to do with it? 1,000 pieces of art? I mean, just to frame 1,000 pieces of art, you'd have to be a multimillionaire. So I figured probably the dumpster would appreciate this work. And she said, oh no, we are going to do something positive with it. And from the paintings came jackets and came scarves and masks. And now we've got a whole array of goodies that are art. And you can wear them, and that's fun. They don't have to hang on the wall. It's fun. We wear them, the grandchildren wear them, everybody wears them. It's wonderful.
So Sharna, we're going to go to a question here from someone that you know very well. Hey, Howard, do you want to take the mic,
Howard.
please?
Okay. Hi, Sharna.
Hi, Howard. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's a pleasure to hear you speaking and in such good company today. And thank you, Glenn Yopis, for leading this. It's wonderful. I wanted to just relate my experience of my art to your experience. And I do believe that participating in an act of something that brings us creativity and an act of creativity. For me, it's playing the guitar and listening to music. And I know if I miss a couple of days of not playing the guitar, that I actually feel a dip in my mood. And so I know how important it is to me to keep my hand at it every day. Can you relate to that experience in your painting or the multimedia forms of art that you do, and how has that transformed? How has that transformed your life in a way?
Well, I do. I feel the same way. I generally paint every day. I call it my morning exercise. And but there are times when I need to be doing something else, when the garden is calling me. That's my other love, is working in the garden. The plants call to me. I love putting my hands in the dirt, in the soil, and digging in the soil. I don't wear gloves. I just feel the soil in my skin, and I get a little dirty, and that's kind of fun. I'm always doing something that's fun, something that brings me happiness. If it isn't the painting, then it's the garden, and it's the plants, or I don't cook very much anymore. That I have to admit. But I do love nature. And I find that when I put a plant in the ground, I transplant one plant, I break them off and I put it in the ground. I feel as though I'm creating something. I'm taking something and building something else. It's really a form of creation. It's all a form of creation. I guess maybe I have a sense of feeling of God, and I don't compare myself to God, but it's like God created us. And when I plant something, I feel like I have given this plant a chance to live and recreate itself. So everything that I do seems to bring me some happiness.
Well,
Every
it also,
day.
it also seems to bring a sense of reinvention, Sharna. Do you
Right.
see where the dots are connecting now? Everything's a piece of art, and everything that you touch is a reinvention for you.
Right.
And so I like to kind of bring this back to the workplace, and those who are our guests today who are thinking about this with respect to their own jobs. You know, just because you have a certain function doesn't mean that you can't redefine that function. And oftentimes, you know, Sharna, when we're in the workplace, we do what the job title and job description tells us to do. When in the age of personalization, perhaps we have an opportunity to reinvent what that function should really mean. Because what I'm getting out of this conversation is, you know, maybe I should look at life through the lens of a mosaic, and that everything that's in front of me can be moved and shaped in different ways, knowing that we'll never know what the outcome's going to be, because it's never going to be predictable, but will bring us surprises and continue to shift the pieces in a way that relates to where I want to take them. How do you respond to that, Sharna?
Well, it's hard for me to really describe it. It's just something that it's like I know I have to do something. I always have to be doing something. I guess maybe I'm a little bit of a workaholic too. I mean, I can stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. If I start working on something, I can start looking through my cards. I produce cards, and I'll start looking through the cards, and I probably have thousands of cards, and I can stay up all night. Of course, the next day I don't function very well, but it's like I just move. I need to move and do and create something. And part of it, I belong to a journal group. I have a group of women that write a journal about their lives, and once a month we meet. And it's something to leave to our families that represent our lives, the way we live them and the way we saw life. And we hope that our children will learn something from what we've written, and hope that it'll be meaningful to them, and recognize that we are not them. We are different, and they may not love everything about us, but they're going to learn who we are, and we did the best we could. And maybe what they see, they didn't recognize before. And so I find it very meaningful to leave this legacy to my family, so that when time goes on, I know even Brielle, and believe me, this girl has it all. But she was with me yesterday, and she said to me, Sharna, Grandma, she said, I would like to learn to paint like you. Not only does she play piano and speak well, but she's a wonderful artist as well. And I tried to show her, but then I was thinking about that, and I wanted to say to her, you know what, Brielle? Do what you do. What you do is wonderful. You don't have to be like me. Just be like you, because you have it all too. And I feel that way with all my children and my grandchildren. Just be you. That's the most important thing.
So Sharna, on that note, we actually have another question here from Bobby. Bobby, glad that you've joined us. We'd love to have you on an open mic, Bobby.
Hi, Bobby.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Thanks. I feel like I'm listening to myself talk.
Oh, good.
And I guess, Flynn, did you want me to say what I
Please,
wrote?
please.
Oh, Jiminy. I was just saying I'm like yourself, full of joy and happiness and love, and that I get excited about everything and I like to do everything and I like to reinvent myself. But that doesn't always work with everybody that you are connected with, your friends or your colleagues, even some family members. They're like, oh, she's over the top. Oh my God, she's always so happy. Oh my God, she never sees the wrong in anything. She's just Miss Positive. And sometimes you walk away going, I need to just bring myself down a little bit and not be so excited. And I was wondering, have you experienced that?
I don't really know what people think. They don't tell me. So I am who I am. And yes, there are times when I'm so over the top that I exhaust myself. So I'm sure if I exhaust myself, I must exhaust them as well. But you know what? I take time out. Sometimes I take a break. Maybe this day I won't paint. Maybe this day I won't work in the garden. Maybe I'll just sit in front of television and take a nap. Or maybe I'll just watch a good movie or a series. And somehow or other, there's always something I can do to bring me back. I wouldn't worry about it. You know what? If you're happy, be happy and don't pay attention to what other people tell you. You are who you are, and you sound like you're wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much. I know you said earlier you don't care what people think. I even get to where I say that. I don't care what you think. I'm really happy. Snap out of it. You should be happy.
Exactly. I like what you think.
So Bobby,
I'm with you.
Okay, thanks.
So Bobby, I'm going to share some thoughts and just quickly. I've always said that there's 4 types of people that we deal with: the leaders, lifters, loafers, and leeches. I made a decision a long time ago that those loafers and leeches, out of here. The sad part is most people are afraid to let them go because they give them joy. Why? Because it's easy to get stuck in conformity.
Yeah.
So when you feel that way, do an inventory of who your friends are and those that you associate yourself with, because you're not going to more than likely be able to change them on the spot. You can certainly control your destiny. So we have another question
Thank you.
here. And it's really interesting. I want to go to this next question, and this is from Luisa. Luisa, please share on an open mic your question.
Hi, I'm Louisa. Hi, Sharna.
Hi, Louisa. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you as well. I sing, as you know.
Yes, I do.
Uh-oh, did we lose Luisa?
Hello, hello.
There you go, Luisa.
Are you there?
Yes, and I find a connection with our Creator, God, when I sing. That is, to me, is a form of prayer or meditation or connection with our spirituality. My question to you is, do you feel a connection with God when you paint?
The answer is yes, definitely yes. When I paint, I lose myself, and quite honestly, sometimes when I finish a painting, I say to myself, did I really do that? It's as though some spirit enters me and kind of takes over. I know it sounds strange. I know that sounds really strange, but there are times that I just completely lose myself in what I do. As you saw in the video, I really do lose myself when I'm painting, and I'm not thinking about it. It's so automatic to me that it comes naturally. And I'm saying to myself, there must be a spirit that helps me do this. And truly, when I get through, I am so invigorated and so happy that I know it has to be a spirit. So yes, I absolutely agree with you.
You know, thank you so much, Luisa, for that question. You know, it's interesting how what we're fundamentally talking about here is, how do we find ourselves? How do we love ourselves? And once we're there, what do we do with that gift that's been given to us, not only for ourselves, but for others? And when you think about these two forces of standardization and personalization, we're dealing with them every single day. And unfortunately, they're operating in the extremes right now because we haven't learned in large institutions how they can both coexist. And I think the message from Sharna is that we can find coexistence, but this begins with you. It begins with you not really caring so much about what people think about you, but how you can be a better contributor when you know what it is that gives you enough distinction so that your contributions can start impacting the business, it can start impacting the culture, it can start impacting relationships in a new, more meaningful and purposeful way. So Sharna, before I get to our next question that just came in, how do you find purpose in life? Because I think right now people are grappling with, okay, we're starting to come out of COVID, but they don't want to come out of COVID the way they got in to COVID. How do people come out differently with the different purpose? How do they start that process, you think?
Well, that's a difficult question because it did impact my life greatly, as it has everybody's. And I think just being with people again makes you realize your humanity and how much you really missed being with friends and family. As the Zoom is very nice, but it doesn't really give you that feeling that you're really together. It really doesn't. It's like watching a movie, but yet you're really not in the film, even though you may relate to it, you're not in the film. So when you can finally get together again and be with your family, be with your friends and share something, there's an energy that the human race and even animals share. Even animals share it with us. There's a certain energy as a human, as living on this planet, that I think brings you life. And to me, getting back to life with friends and family is what brought me back to myself again.
So Sharna, it's so interesting. I love your authenticity. I mean, if people aren't feeling what you're saying, then we have other issues. But you're helping us understand the essence of what empathy means, what being compassionate is, what it means to listen, not only to others, but to listen to yourself. You know, what it means to be courageous. You took a bold move to do what you're doing, thinking that other people would care when in the end it didn't matter to you whether they cared about your artwork. But now you've let yourself free. You've shown the work that you've been hiding and only sharing with loved ones to the world now. I mean, that takes courage. So I just want people to realize that you're living yourself, the very things that, you know, the narrative is in the workplace and in society today. And I think that you're a living, breathing example of how to do that without thinking too much about it. So let's go to your next question here. And this one comes from Heather. Jeff will get to you in a moment. Heather, we'd love for you to share your question on an open mic, please.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, Sharna.
Hi.
Hi, I'm feeling very inspired by all of what you're saying. And I wanted to ask you what advice you might have for those of us who maybe haven't yet found our thing. We're in that stage of our lives where we're busy with, you know, the everyday hustle and bustle of work and running the kids around and just kind of getting by. Do you have any advice of how to find that thing that might bring us the happiness and peace that you're feeling from your art?
Well, if you're raising a family, which I suspect you are, it is more difficult. However, it's very important, looking back now, to take time out for yourself. No matter what you have to do, somebody will have to maybe watch your children so that you can get away and find a place that brings you peace. It doesn't have to be creativity, but it's peace, whether it's to read a book or to listen to some music or go to a theater or go into your garden or just a place where you can be alone and just fill your own soul with you and know who you are. I mean, we get so involved when we're young to be with our family and family, but if you don't take the time out to find out who you are, it's very hard to find that happiness. I was very fortunate. My husband provided for us. I didn't have to work. I did work periodically now and then, but I was very fortunate that I could start this process a little earlier, although I didn't really get into art until the boys were out of high school. But it is, looking back, I know it's very important for your well-being to find some place where you find comfort. It doesn't have to be creative. It just has to be a place of peacefulness. And I think maybe that's an answer. Read a book. There's some wonderful, wonderful books, just these beautiful novels. Sometimes you can get into a novel and just lose yourself. Sometimes that's all you need to do is just for a few hours, just lose yourself and then come back and you'll be so much happier.
Thank you for that,
I hope
Sharna.
that helps. I hope that helps.
It does, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And I'm going to give you another little perspective too. And this happens to us every day in the workplace. So I'm going to show you my snow globe. You see it? This is what our minds look like, and we don't even know it, just like this. And what really Sharna is telling us is that we need to disconnect.
Right.
We need to remove ourselves from the chaos just enough so that we can begin to see the clarity of what we're in search of. But when your head is so clouded, it's difficult to have that clarity to make the right decisions about the things that we seek. So hopefully what I'm showing you has helped you. And I keep this on my desk because look, we're all in the rat race. We're all in the treadmill. It's learning how to get off. And I think part of what I've learned from Sharna today is that once you have time for this clarity, the answers become clear to you.
Right.
Because you back to those that gave you happiness when you were a kid or at some moment in life that you then want to re-explore and examine again. Is that helpful? Thank you so much, Heather, for being with us. Now, we've got another person that wants to ask a question. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. Please join us from the open mic.
Okay.
Pardon,
Yeah.
she can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Sharna. Just want to say you're extremely well spoken. I know where Brielle gets her, her intelligence from. Oh, maybe it was from Lee Lubin. I don't know if you heard of that guy.
It could be from Lee Lubin, probably.
He's got some brains. So I'm looking at the screen behind you, and you have a jacket with, it looks like a photo in the background with it's, for some reason all I see is my screen. I can't see anything else right now. There we go. So to your, I guess it's over your left shoulder, that I really like. It looks like there's a photo. I don't know if that's a personal photo or whatever, but my question is,
Oh, yes.
as an artist, we are constantly hearing, oh, I like this, or I like this better than that. My question as an artist on my side, I'm very passionate, and I think that's where we all get our workaholic vibe from, is because we love what we do and we get a sense of fulfillment. My question is, I'm constantly getting scrutinized on music because that's what we do. We put our art out there and people judge it because that's what people do. They go, I like this, I don't like that. I want to purchase this and I want to purchase that. And I mean, for example, I constantly send my, whether it's something I'm writing or a movie or a book or a song out to friends and ask for their opinions. And I guess my question, and that goes to, I know Glenn's going to say that standardization, but, art is, we are very personal, and we create for ourselves and we step out on that limb. But at some point we all are beholden as a business to what other people think. And I guess my question is, in a long-winded way, is that do you listen to other people, and if so, have you ever changed your style? Because I've known your art for a long time, and it's always been incredible. I mean, you've been doing this for years, and I remember as a child looking at it and going, wow, that's really cool. You keep that same vibe. My question is, have you ever changed it up and experimented on the basis of somebody else's standardization? I guess if that would be the correct word, Glenn. That's, I guess, that's my question. And if so, has it been a benefit, or did you go back and just go, I'm going to follow my own vision and trust my own gut? Because I know you talked about your needlepoint situation, but I guess that's it. Have you ever changed it up?
Well, let's put it this way. The needlepoint wasn't mine. That was hers. And she was right. She was doing this for a business and I wasn't helping her because I was doing something artistic. She was in a business. She had so much yarn. And if I went out of the lines, she ran out of yellow or she ran out of red. She couldn't produce them. So she was absolutely right. But in terms of changing because of someone else, the only one time I did this is I did a big painting and Jay saw it. And he said, oh, I think the person that you painted in this picture is going to be very embarrassed. It was a little out there. And I loved the painting and I changed it. And I actually destroyed it. I didn't destroy the canvas, but I painted over it. And afterwards, I was so upset with myself for listening. And I have very rarely ever listened to anybody because I don't really care what anybody thinks. I paint for myself. If somebody likes it, I'm very happy. If they don't like it, well, you know what? I didn't paint it for them. I painted it for me. So no, I do not change for anybody else. I paint for myself. And that's because what I do is for me. And if I can get it out there and people see it and it brings them happiness, then I'm doubly thrilled. But initially I do it for myself. And I understand where you're coming from. I'm not worrying about having somebody buy it. If somebody wanted to buy it, that's wonderful. But I'm not painting it for that. And you have a different need.
Well, no,
But
I agree. I agree. And that's, the most successful things I've ever done are when I've stuck to my gut, even when it came down to writing a book and, everybody wanted me to go one way. And at the very, very last second, I completely went with my gut and changed it, pulled it from the publisher and got yelled at by everybody. And I think it was the best decision I made.
Okay.
But no, I really respect it because I've known your art for so long. And I think it was a little even modern for the times when we were growing up. And I love it. Like when I saw your art again, I was just like, that's amazing. And I love the fact that
Thank
you literally stick by your gut and your vision and you do what makes you happy. And I think it's wonderful. So I'm very proud.
I love you too, Jeff. Mwah.
So I think we just started to understand or get a better perspective of the question that I started this interview with. How do you find your distinction before society defines it for you? I think you've given us the answer, Sharna. Thank you. So let's go to our next question. And we're getting close to the end here. So Louisa, thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you share your question on an open mic. I think this is a different Louisa.
Hi, I'm Louisa, same one.
Hello.
Okay, hi, Louisa.
Again. Hello, Louisa.
Hi, my question is, what advice do you have to our children?
In terms of what?
In terms of what they want to pursue, or I'm a school teacher and I've worked with kindergartners who are so shy and they're just so shy and timid. And I know there is something within that they want to become or in arts, especially in the arts. Just basically what advice do you have in general for everyone who wants to pursue art? Because it's been basically, I've experienced in my life that I wanted to be a singer and I was told, no, you should be a doctor or a lawyer. What advice do you have for people because I went through that experience when I was younger about trying to persuade me to go to take a different direction? What's your perspective on that?
Well, like I said before, I've been very fortunate. I didn't have to go out and make a living. I did work and I didn't find myself very happy working in an office or doing things that I didn't want to do. Always that drive to be who I was always in the top of my mind and my spirit. And it just, until I found the painting, I just didn't really find myself. But that was that moment. For children, and you mentioned children. When you meet children, to me, we are all born artists. Every child is an artist until they learn that they shouldn't do this or they shouldn't do that. We were born artists. Every child is an artist. You give a child a crayon and a piece of paper and they'll tell you a story. So to me, that story is in you. And if you can pursue that as an adult, find something you love to do and challenge yourself and do it. But if you have to make a living, sometimes you have to make those sacrifices. But you know what? Don't let that dream go away, even if you do it on the side. Like I said to Heather, find some place in your life that you find peace, happiness, and joy. If it's when on Saturday and Sunday when you have time off, or anytime, you have to take a vacation from the everyday life periodically in order to really find happiness. And that's it. Find some crayons and color and draw your story or live your story. To me, living your story is really what life's all about if you can do it.
Thanks for your words of wisdom, Sharna.
It's
Thank you.
powerful, Sharna, powerful. So Sharna, we're going to close with this final question from Bill. Bill, thank you so much for joining us. Please ask your question on the open mic.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Sharna. And Glenn, I knew you were going to make me ask a question. Hi.
Hi, Bill.
Sharna, I've really enjoyed hearing some of your story. And as you've been talking, I've been able to scroll through a lot of your work on Instagram. So thanks for putting it all out there. That's great. A couple of questions ago, you reflected, you were talking about, in virtual communication, virtual connection, that we've been subjected to in the last couple of years. And you noted that it's not the same as in-person relationship. And I think you gave more value to in-person relationship. I think we assume that in-person meeting is better or more valuable than virtual connections just in general. And I want to challenge this a little bit. Virtual platforms have actually opened doors for folks with various challenges, whether it's a learning challenge or a social challenge or an anxiety or something. And has also collapsed boundaries that usually keep us apart, space, time zone. And so it's actually facilitated new ways of connecting with each other. So when we say in-person meeting is better than virtual connection, I think it's inhibiting our ability to see beyond the boundaries of what we think of as normal. And so it's keeping us, to borrow your language, Glenn, it's keeping us in the standardization trap. I approach it like art. The medium itself has no value. It's how the medium is used that's important and that can be valued. So from your perspective, as an artist, as a person, from your experience, how might new media like virtual platforms, how might new media benefit or enhance our relationships and our ability to live our stories as you impelled us to do?
That's an interesting question. I'm not quite sure how I can respond to that. I know that when I'm in a classroom, I paint, generally I paint every day by myself, and I listen to music when I paint, which stimulates me. As a matter of fact, like you heard on the short video, that when I'm painting, if the music is rock and roll, I'm painting rock and roll. If the music is classical, I'm doing classical. As to being on virtual, it's hard for me to really relate to it because I'm a person-to-person person. When I was in a classroom and we have a whole class full of people painting, I am so excited. I feel this energy coming from these people. I don't even know what they're doing, but there is energy that seems to transmit itself from one person to the next. And I get so excited. I can do 3 and 4 paintings in a couple of hours, where even the instructor looks at me and is like, wow, how do you do that? It's this energy that I get. I don't feel that on a video or on a Zoom, or it doesn't do it for me. You're right. It does connect you. And if it's the only possible thing that you can do, then I guess you have to pursue it in however you can do it. But to me, person to person is really what art is all about. It really is it's love. It's love. And that's what art is to me. It's love. And it's hard to love when you're so far away. You feel somebody hug you, touch you. It's love.
Sharna, I'm going to jump in and provide some perspective. And Bill, Thank you so much for that question.
I'm sorry if I didn't answer you.
No. You know what, Sharna? I'm going to do what you've done for us today. You've opened our eyes of what's possible, regardless of what stage you are in life. But did you ever know that what we've been looking at as we've been watching you is your gallery? And with each piece that people are exploring, or like Bill, he was going through your Instagram. It was the virtual medium that inspired us even more as we were listening to your words. The whole point is that it's your art that is inspiring people. And the fact that you're here to share your story about your art makes it that much more inspiring. So just so you know, your story has elevated the inspiration, but it's the art that's right behind you that we could all feel. The energy is there. You can tell that someone put a lot of love on those jackets, on those canvases, and on that cool stuff that's just hanging out there on the couch.
Would you like me to stand up so you get a better view?
Sure, stand up, and because we got to close here. We do have one last question, but go ahead, stand up.
Stand up so you can get a little better look.
See, Art, I think this is what Bill's point is, that through virtual, we can still be inspired. And in fact, if it wasn't for virtual, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So anyway, just perspective. The last question does come from Karen, and I know a lot of people need to get off because we're at the top of the hour. Karen, can you ask your question quickly, and then we're going to close?
Hi, Karen.
Hello. Hi, Grandma.
Hello. Oh, hi, Karen.
Hi.
That's my granddaughter, Karen.
Oh, my goodness. Go ahead, Karen. Ask your question, please.
She's a great artist. She's a great artist. Yes.
Oh, too much. I was gonna ask. I've done art for quite a while, and yet I still find myself struggling to draw every day. I mean, I always go a couple times a week, but I was gonna ask, like, how do you motivate yourself to get up and draw every day at least once?
Thank you for your question, Karen.
Well, you know what, Karen? When I get up in the morning, I put on music. And just hearing music really, really gets my creativity going. And so I put the music on, and then I set up my table. I work in the dining room, set up my table, I set up my pad of paper, and sometimes I'll do a video, and I listen to the music. I decide which medium I'm going to use. I have lots of different mediums. So if one day I don't want to use acrylic, I'll use oil crayon, or I'll use pastel, or one thing or another. And I have lots of variety of things. So if this day I say, today seems like it's going to be an oil pastel, and I put on music that really moves me, and the oil pastel really moves me. It's smooth and it's creamy, and it's like working with butter. And I just I do it with my hands a lot of times. I don't even use a brush. I just want to get into the action. And once I do, it's like it sets my day, and boom, I have a great day. I mean, I just bring out the mediums, and I say, I want to use this one today. And that gets me excited. I mean, it's like a kid. I'm like a kid in a toy store. I'm a kid in a toy store. That's what I am.
Well, you know what, Sharna, I think that's a good way to wrap this up, because I think what you've taught us, and you've taught us many things today, is to go find what we felt like when we were kids.
Right.
To go
let that inner child speak to you. That's what it is. That inner child lives there. You have to let it out. That's what it is.
And this doesn't just apply to art. It applies to what we have to deal with when we go to work. Just like you said, in everything we do, is find that child in you, find that happiness, find that spark, that energy that drives you. And don't put limits on it. Let it go.
Exactly.
Let it go. Sharna, I love you.
I love you, Glenn, and thank you.
You have been an inspiration to me for since I first met you back in 1985. I can't thank you enough. I think you've been an inspiration to all of us. And if there's one thing that we've gotten out of this, is the power of personalization can take you to places you've never gone before.
Yes, it really can.
Sharna, thank you so much. And don't forget, folks, that when you lead in the age of personalization, you will see things that others don't. Do what others won't, and keep pushing when prudence has quit. Again, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and social media at Glenn Yope so that you can keep in touch with our most recent content about leadership in the age of personalization. Thank you, Sharna, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
Not too mushy.
Hello?
Are we still there? Are we still?